Hello and welcome to another exciting week of linear relations. Right, so today we'll be working on 6.4 parallel and perpendicular lines. Okay, so as the title goes, we have parallel lines. So you should have learned these in elementary school. So parallel lines are lines that never meet. Okay, so they go in the same direction, have the same steepness, and they never meet. Okay, so it could be 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, but they're parallel, they'll never touch. Perpendicular lines, on the other hand, intersect each other. Not only do they intersect each other, but they intersect each other at a 90-degree angle. Okay, so it's 2 lines going in a complete opposite direction. So it'd be like someone traveling north and south and another person traveling east and west. So they're going in completely opposite directions, but they can meet at a 90-degree angle. Okay, so we have here graph the following lines. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines to graph. So we're going to do them in pairs. I'm going to get out some different colors just so we could distinguish on the graph. So we'll get purple and we'll get blue. And with my pencil, my pink pencil. Okay, so let's graph the first one. So you should be somewhat experts on these graphing these lines now. So remember, the number that's by itself is the y-intercept, and the number next to the x is the slope. So the 1 is your initial value or your starting point. So our positive 1 is where we start on the y-axis, which is here. So we start at 1. Okay? Then we use our slope to get our next point. So slope is rise over run. So this 2 is our rise. But it's not written, our run is 1. So our rise is 2, our run is 1. Positive 2 means goes up, positive 1 goes to the right. So from our point here, we go up 2 spots and 1 to the right. Okay, then we do it again. We could keep doing it. We could do 2 points, but it's better to do a couple more. So up 2, right 1. Again, up 2, right 1. Okay, so we have a few points here. So I'm just going to now draw the line. Okay, so that is our first one. Okay, now we're going to do our second one. So we have y equals 2x. Okay, so the difference between this one is a +1. This one does not have a number at the end. So if you recall that if it doesn't have a number here, it's a direct variation. That means it starts at 0. So we don't write it, but it's kind of like saying +0. So this is our starting point, 0. So we're going to start here. Okay, you'll notice that they have the same slope. So rise of 2, run of 1. So we're going to do the same thing. So up 2, 1 to the right. Up 2, 1 to the right. Up 2, 1 to the right. And we're going to draw our line. Okay, so that is number 2. Okay, next one. So very similar one to the previous one. So y equals 2x plus 3. So we're going to start at 3. Then we're going to go 2 up and 1 to the right again. So 1, 2, 1 to the right, 2 up, 1 to the right. You could also go down 2 and 1 to the left. Okay, so that would be the same thing. Okay, now our fourth one. So we have y equals -1 over 2x plus 1. So we're going to start at +1. And now we're going to go down 1 since it's a -1. So our rise is -1. So we go down 1 and then 2 to the right. So down 1, 2 to the right, down 1, 2 to the right. Okay, that is line number 4. And lastly, lines of 5 and 6. So this one starting point is 3. 2 down, so rise or run. -2 means 2 down. +3, 3 to the right. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And our last one, -4. So we're going to start at -4 here. And we have going up 3, 2 to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 2 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 to the right. Okay. Okay, so the reason why I graphed these 6 lines is I want to see some sort of pattern here. Okay, I'm just going to erase these ones. Okay, so if we look at the gray ones here, these lines go alongside each other, but they never touch. Okay, so they keep going in the same direction, but they never touch each other. Okay, so these 2 lines would be parallel lines. Okay, so these 2 are parallel. Okay, so that's looking at the gray ones. Now we're going to look at the blue ones. Okay, so if you have our blue one here, we have one line going into the negative direction and one going towards the positive direction. Okay, if you look at the way they're meeting, they kind of look like this up here, just sideways. So these 2 here are actually perpendicular lines. Okay, and I'll tell you how we know that in a minute. So these ones are perpendicular. Okay, and lastly, our purple ones, same thing. So this one positive direction, this one negative direction, and these ones create a 90-degree angle as well. Okay, so these 2 are perpendicular. Okay, so just by graphing we could kind of look, but we could actually tell if they're parallel or perpendicular before we even graph. Okay, we could actually just look at the equation and determine whether they're going to be parallel or perpendicular. And the way we look at it is we look at the slope. Okay, so for here, so just an example we did above, if I have 2 lines like this, they both would have what type of slope? If they're flat, they would be a slope of 0. So this would be a slope of 0, and this would be a slope of 0. That means they're going in the same direction, which are, well, in this case, horizontal, and they'll never touch. So if we look at our first example here, we have both of them have a slope of 2, or 2/1. So since they have the exact same slope, they are parallel. Okay, you'll notice that this blue line here is also parallel to these 2 because this one also had a 2/1 slope. Okay, but these 2 here, same slope, so that you're parallel. Okay, so slopes of parallel lines are the same. Identical in that case. Okay, but you'll notice here that the y-intercepts are different, so that's fine. They just have to have different starting points. Okay, because if they have the same y-intercept, then they would actually be the same line. So their y-intercepts are different. Okay, so different y-intercepts. So b values, different b values. Okay, so now let's look at what we notice with perpendicular lines. Okay, because this is a little bit trickier. Okay, so we have here, the first one is 2 over 1, and the next one is 1 over 2, okay, but negative. Okay, next one over here, 2 over 3, and the next one is 3 over 2, but this one is negative. Okay, so to determine if they're perpendicular, they have the exact opposite slopes. So this one is 2 over 1, this is 1 over 2. So that's the flip versions of each other. Okay, this one is 2 over 3, and the second one is 3 over 2. So these are exact opposites. Okay, they're flip versions. Okay, so we talked about when we're doing multiplying, or sorry, dividing fractions. Well, what do? We do what's called the reciprocal. Okay, so these are reciprocals of each other. And reciprocal just means the flip version. So if one's 2 over 1, next one's 1 over 2. This one's 2 over 3, next one's 3 over 2. So they're flips of each other. But they also have one slight difference as well. One will be positive and one will be negative. It doesn't matter which one. So in the first case, this one was positive, and then the flip version was negative. Okay, so one's positive, one's negative. And it goes the same for this one. The first one was negative, so the next one has to be positive. And that's because the slope, they have to go in different directions. Okay, so one has to be in the positive direction, one has to be into the negative direction. Okay, they have to go in opposite directions, just like north and south, east and west. Okay, different directions. Okay, so perpendicular lines, so what we call this, if they're perpendicular, the slopes are negative reciprocals. So the negative meaning they have different signs, so one's positive, one's negative, and they are the flip versions, which are called reciprocals. So slopes of perpendicular lines are negative reciprocals. Slopes of perpendicular lines are negative reciprocals. Okay, so negative meaning different signs. So positive slash negative, and reciprocals means the flip versions. Okay, so let's do a couple here. Write an equation for a line that is parallel to this one. Okay, so I'm going to make an equation. So I'm going to make another one that's y equals mx plus b. So I have to put a value for m and a value for b. So if I'm going to make a line that is parallel to this one, then I would have to use the same slope. So then I would use 4. So y equals 4x. Okay, same slopes. And now, remember, it says different y-intercepts. So then I just change this y-intercept into any number. It doesn't matter. Okay, I'm just going to say plus 1. Okay, so that's one equation that is parallel to this one. There is an infinite number of solutions here, so it's an endless answers. So I could do another one. Y equals 4x minus 3. I could do y equals 4x plus 5. I could do y equals 4x minus 100. Okay, so these all have the same slope. We're just changing the y-intercept here. And all these lines will be parallel to each other. Okay, next one, write an equation of a line perpendicular to this one. Okay, so again, y equals mx plus b. We have to come up with the slope and the y-intercept. So if it's perpendicular, the slope must be a negative reciprocal. So we have to do the flip version of 2 over 3. So if 2 over 3, if we flip it, then it would be 3 over 2. Okay, this first one is positive, so that means my next one has to be negative. Okay, x, and then make up any y-intercept. You could put the same one if you want to. It doesn't matter because they're going different directions. But just to keep it consistent, just change it. So let's say plus 2. Okay, so we could do multiple examples. So negative 3 over 2x minus 5. Y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 10, and so on. Okay, so parallel lines, same slope, different y-intercept. Equation perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes, so flip versions, and different signs. And the y-intercept, let's just keep it the same. Or sorry, let's keep it consistent and just change the y-intercept. Okay, that is the lesson for today. Your homework is here, page 335, number 1, and then 3 all the way to 8. I hope everyone is well, and hope everyone had a wonderful weekend, and hopefully a wonderful Mother's Day as well. Take care, and we'll catch base later in the week. Again, this is, rewind, this is the difficult part of the chapter. So today's a tough lesson. Tomorrow is going to be even, not tomorrow, Wednesdays will be a more difficult one as well. So please stay on top of the work. And lastly, let's see if there's any birthdays coming up. Nope, none till the 22nd. Okay, so next lesson will be posted later in the week. Have a good day. Take care. Bye.